Hi, welcome again to Draw Like Drawson, and I'm going to share with you some of the techniques that I've developed over the years, despite whatever medium you might work in or whatever choice of subject matter or painting style. Perhaps the looseness of my approach can be of value to you. So I'm going to call this one Playing Twice with an Idea. I've already done an earlier version of this image. This is my original drawing. You can see it's all sort of cobbled together, and then I made a photocopy of it. So this is the image that I've already done a version of, and I approached it loosely. I approached it as if I was drawing from memory. The one that I've already done is larger, it's on paper. This is going to be done on board, and that's going to be an interesting development. The board that I use, I call it gator board, but the manufacturer calls it gator foam. And as you can see, in this case, it's 1/2 inch thick. You can get it all the way up to 1 inch, 3/4, and you can get it in sheets of 4 feet by 8 feet. It's not overly large. It's not exactly small either. It's what it is. This stuff is so good. I've been painting on it for years. I love this. I choose this over any other material. It is light, it is strong, it does not warp, it does not bend. I mean, I can't bend this. Even a narrow strip of it, you kind of have to really put some elbow grease behind it to bend it a little bit. And by the way, it also loves paint. It loves acrylic paint in particular. I think it could also accept oil paint. I'm pretty sure it would. It has a slight tooth to it, but it's relatively smooth. It does not have the weave of canvas, which I'm not crazy about. I mean, I have some paintings that I think must be about 40 years old that I've done on this stuff. I have not seen any sign of deterioration. But the one thing that you do have to do, this is the foam. And it's a dense foam. The next thing we have to do is seal the edges. It just makes it look better. It makes it stronger. I also sand. I sand around here. I sand the corners so they're not super sharp. Buff off the sharpness of the corners. Sometimes you can bump the corners. It's always repairable, by the way. I've had accidents where I've had to repair. Not a problem. And what I use to seal the edges is this stuff. Black gesso. So anyway, this is how I do it. I will introduce my brush. It's just a flat squirrel hair brush. Almost any kind of soft brush will do. And I'm not right now thinning down the gesso at all. I'm just kind of using it the way it comes out of the pot. And I want to just make sure I get all of that. And just sort of brushing off to the edges. I was going to say, you don't have to be too careful. I usually do 2 at a time. I'll let them dry because black gesso, just like black paint, is very dense. It's very good as a sealer. This is really the only use I've ever found for black gesso. Although I have to admit, I have painted with it on occasion too. I should also point out that the gator foam comes in other colors than white. You can get it in black. The black is actually a very dark gray. It's not as black as the black gesso. You can get it in tan. I painted on all of them. They all work. They're all fine. They all have wonderful properties. While the black gesso is drying, I went to the copies that I made. As you can see, they are larger than the original. Okay, so for instance, this would be the horse's body here. You see, I'm just That's what it would look like on the print side. That's what it would look like on the cutting side, because I will be cutting these shapes out in a cutting pasting method. But more importantly, I paint on this side. But before I can do that, I have to seal the paper. You know how paper gets when it's wet, it starts to fall apart. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to seal the paper with acrylic matte medium. So here is my matte medium. And what I often do is I just take a piece of scrap paper and I bring out some of that on that paper. Sometimes I even do it directly on this. So this time I'm going to do all the negative side, the cutout side. So I will grab a palette knife. You will see that I'm taking this and I'm just distributing it over the paper here. So over all of the area here, I want to get a layer of matte medium, which will seal that paper. I'll have to do both sides, but right now I'm only going to be doing this side. Go on to the next one. Oh, okay, so the next one is the horse's head. Now I'm going to seal that as well. Let's look at the ground now. This is the white gator foam. We've sealed the edges. We're ready to go. I have done some preliminary work just with pastel. I have actually masked off. This is just some paper. It's removable. I can loosely taped in place. Okay, so the overall image features a horseman, a woman reading. There's a sun, there's going to be a moon. I've already done this in another video. This one, on the other hand, is going to create the paradox. This is going to be more controlled. But within the control, here's where the paradox comes. The control gives us the confidence to take risks. I'm going to try to point those instances out because I think this is particularly valuable for artists. You know, we should be taking risks because that is where the growth comes. That is where the very interesting innovations emerge. As we know in life, when you take risks, sometimes the risks don't work out. Sometimes we regret having taken the risk. But the reward is great when we do take the risk. So we are willing to risk the failure to achieve the excellence, the extraordinary thing. I am going to be painting with this, an organic sponge. I like the ones made by Mother Nature. Soak it in water, of course, to make it soft. And these are the colors that I've chosen. A gray, a cobalt blue, magenta, a brown, murky green, and a yellowy umber type of color. I'm going to just sort of make a indeterminate color just to start with. I'm going to just start doing that. Remember, I have this masked off with paper, so I can be fairly free and easy with this, right? So, do I want to sweep a bit? Yeah, let's try some sweeping. So let's see what happens when I bring in some of that gray. I want to let some of the white come through. Do I want to get some of that yellow in? Maybe not at this time. I think not. See, because I can come in at any time, once this is dried, with the chalk pastel and blend that into this building up of tone that I'm starting here. I want to push it back quite a bit. By the way, when you're using a sponge like this, I have the suggestion of a horizon. I'm thinking of a kind of an ocean horizon that's happening there. I'm going to use something like this. I'm going to just use this knife and see if I can just scratch something into it. Remember, this is not paper. This is board. And so it takes on more of a physical presence. And I think I wanted to get the notion of moonlight emerging from here eventually. Possibly a little bit of, just using the flat of the utility blade, just using this part here. And a little bit of scratch. You get certain kinds of other kinds of texture happening, maybe even here too. The paint has dried now. It doesn't take very long because it isn't very thick at all. Maybe come in with some chalk now. I'm going to start with this dark blue, but there's this green that I like very much. I really find this color to be a useful one. I'd like to have some of that in the background here. By the way, I should show you what the mask looks like. See, when I pull the mask away, I've created this edge here. This is going to be a very different key. It's going to be more daylight, right? Okay, so I'm going to start up here. With the chalk, of course, you can just blend it right in. Get some black. Black, good old black. I also want to have some black down here. I have scratched with the knife a couple places where I think I'd like to have stars. And I think I want the moon down here, a star. There seems to be another one that wants to be here. Okay, so now I'm going to use that lovely green. Let's see what that will do. I could use a paper towel, but you know, my hands work just fine too. The background is coming along. It's a combination of the sponge application of paint and the chalk. I could just basically scribble the surface of the blue over this kind of greenish, ambiguous colored sky. I do want to have height of land. That is something that I just sort of want to have that's fairly definite, and I'm going to just come in with the chalk and just do it like that. For now, that's all I really want. No sense in fussing too much, because when we start the cutting and pasting process, that's going to change the nature of this a whole lot. So right now, this is all very soft, but there's going to be a number of hard edges, hard shapes, which will be in contrast to the softness of, for instance, this sky. I've done a mask, just a paper mask. I just cut it out because I wanted to have a clear demarcation between this sky and this sky. It's going to be two different skies. And one of them is a night sky and one of them is a day sky. And the reader will be part of the day sky. She will be down here. So we have this L-shaped energy, different from this.